to the world. Subscribe now to the Hot 97 YouTube channel. It's Ebro in the Morning with Laura Stiles and Rosenberg.
It's Ebro in the Morning. We got Rosenberg. No Laura Stiles. Jeremy, don't be offended. Laura Stiles is about to have a baby. So she is.
What?
Yeah, she would have loved to have been here to celebrate this moment with our guy, Jeremy O. Harris Rosenberg.
I don't know if you understand this, Ebro.
Yes.
Jeremy O. Harris has the most Tony nominations, the most nominations for a writer ever in history. 12 Tony nominations.
I heard that, and I was like, I didn't even know they had 12 categories.
I know.
They didn't either before this, I guess. No one else had
Jeremy,
12.
first of all, congratulations. Second of all, did you see it and go, all right, this is almost so much as crazy. I don't even know what to say to this.
I think my friend Agnes actually sent me this like really wild quote from Tennessee Williams because Tennessee Williams had like 3 plays from on Broadway before he got his first Tony nomination. And he was like, oh shit, like I was at my lowest place before this happened, and now this has happened, and I feel like I can finally go on as a writer because like someone respects me. People are seeing what I do. And I think I feel like that because the day before the Tony nominations came out, I told everyone, I was like, I genuinely think we might get 3. Like literally top number we'll get is 3. And I told everyone which 3 I thought we'd get. And I was like, and that's fine. It just sucks because I think that we actually made a dent in the culture that like feels worthy of like what Angels in America got. And like Angels in America
I wouldn't
was
have
the
felt bad
record
for you
holder.
if you got 3 on your first joint. That still would have been.
By the way, Jeremy,
totally.
you're 21 years old or something.
You're like 12.
I'm not 21.
He's 16.
No, and again, this isn't me, and I feel like that's going to be heard, and someone's going to take that really badly and think that I'm like so hyper egotistical. But I'm literally just like, I just genuinely don't know outside of Hamilton, which is a musical, what plays have been written about this much or have been like a part of the culture as like pervasively. And I think that like that's something significant that like happens to plays that you want to have some historic number of nominations or wins for. And because I, hadn't had a big awards moment with this play yet, I was really sort of deciding it probably wouldn't happen. So when it happened, I was in a state of shock. I literally felt like I had dreamed it. I was like, because like it was this thing that I said was like, oh, like if the world was right, this would happen. And then it happened. And I was like, but the world's not right. Like literally there's COVID everywhere and like a dictator trying to take over our nation. So, and all my friends are out of work. Everything felt crazy, but it feels really cool.
Congratulations.
And also I'm just so excited because like most of the only way a play gets 12 nominations is if like a bunch of your actors are getting nominated. And to know that like, we produced a play with 8 actors, none of whom people knew before they got to the theater. Obviously some people knew them, their parents knew them, their friends knew them, right. But like they weren't like it wasn't Lupita Nyong'o is Slave Play.
Right.
This was like a ragtag group of like hardcore theater actors who were able to command a huge audience and get awarded for like the actual labor of acting. Like this is like when the mixtape kids win the Grammy, or get nominated for the Grammy at least.
So the dynamics of what the play breaks down, okay, and challenges and forces people to consider and understand. When we talked to you last time, you were in a place of kind of like, look, this is shit that needs to be discussed and talked about. This is shit that I've experienced, friends experienced, whatever. And the kind of lens you put it through, you were like, look, the people need to be here, whether they like it or not. It was very in your face, right? Do you think that contributed to the 12? Because I think the writing in general was the piece, or was it all of the above?
I think it was everything. I mean, I think that writing a play like that meant that writing a play that was so in your face meant that every single element of the play had to be in your face, right? Like there was no room for subtlety. So, you get an actress like Annie McNamara, the role of Alana, and she's going to give you like Amy Cooper on crack, and like that's the only way to meet the text. And I think the same is true of all of our designers. Like you can't like half-ass the design. Didi Aite can't half-ass those designs, right? Like you can't half-ass the the lighting when you know that the set designer has thrown you like a gauntlet of the in your face gesture of like a mirror on the back wall. So if you're gonna light that, like light a stage and not blind the audience except for when you want to, you got to come with your best lighting design. So I feel like it was like both and I think that I feel really lucky that like most of the people who worked on the show are not like Clint, our set designer, is like a Tony winner, but like he's still like a gay Filipino man, right? Like our set designer is like an African woman. Like our lighting designer is, I think, the first woman of color ever nominated for best lighting design at the Tonys. You know, and I think that like everyone was just like, oh shit, we're going to Broadway? Let's step our pussies up. Like, let's go and like just like drench these motherfuckers, you know? And I think they did, you know?
Here's the question. How old are you, Jeremy?
I'm 31, but I feel like I should start lying because people like me being younger. So I'm 26.
Well, your energy. Well, you know what it is. You have just a very youthful energy too.
You do.
So
and 31 is crazy young to be doing what you're doing. So my question is, being 31 and having your first play do what it did, right? Obviously, you hope in your mind that will not be the greatest work you ever do. Hopefully, you'll be like, Slave Play was one of many things. It was great, blah, blah, blah. How do you continue to stay motivated and do better and also not become an asshole? Because 12 nominations your first time out is tough. So how do you do that?
So, okay. This is two things. One, who says I'm not already an asshole?
Facts. But I don't think you're facts. No, crazy, but not an asshole.
No, but I think that I think it's multi-layered. Like, I mean, I think that there's one reviewer who I love calling him out because I'm like, if critics are gonna get in these like interwebs and like write whatever they want to out of their neck about me, then I should be able to go where I want to go and talk out of my neck about them. So Terry Teach Out, who is a critic, wrote a review in the Wall Street Journal about Slave Play, where basically he ended it being like, I don't know, like, you know, is the play good? Maybe. But the bigger issue is that when you're this young and you knock the ball out of the park on your first go at bat, where do you even go from there? You're always chasing that home run. Like, that's what happened with Native Son, like, and Richard Wright. Like, he did that. And it's this whole, like, spiral he had about, like, what if I peaked too early? And I'm like, well, at least I peaked, nigga. Like, I don't know. And, like, with this, I think the freeing thing about getting 12 nominations, like, the most nominations of any like original play in since like, you know, Harry Potter, which is like a thing, but also since like Angels in America, right? I think that having that happen means that like I don't have to try to top myself. You know, I get to just write back for me because like in a sense it was like I got a grand slam my first go out, and so now like I get to just have fun, and it's like
so. It's like Nas. It's like Nas-Illmatic. It's like you drop a classic on the first album. Instead of chasing that again, you have the freedom to be like, hey, if I strike out this time, I already have my classic.
Yes, and it's a freedom that like allows me a lot of. That also is a freedom that's like so emblazoned with prestige that it allows me the chance to the idea of how I will not be an asshole. Give the same opportunities I had to other people by shining the light that this like 12 nominations gives me onto other things, which is like one of the reasons why like this week I produced 2 plays by like peers in the industry who I think are doing really amazing work digitally. And I was like, yo, like, let's put these up. I have this money from HBO. I'll do it. And like, I'm commissioning more writers and like trying to put people who are doing dangerous in your face work in the spotlight that I have, because like now that I have 12 nominations, like it's my name's in some history book. I can like move out of the light that's shining my way and start putting other people in the midst of it.
Well,
which
I
is
also
what
think for
excites
you,
me.
When I first met you, articulated, you know, as a writer and somebody who wanted to be in the Broadway space. Like you said earlier, you guys are a ragtag bunch. You weren't doing this for Tony nominations. You were doing this to tell stories about black folks and the impacts of just being black, or just being black and gay, or being a woman, or being any of these things. That was the catalyst. That was the spark. And you did it from a organic, humble place, and just the need and desire to share, right? And which I think is how you can now say what you just said, which is like, yo, I peaked, motherfucker. Like, psh, and I wasn't even setting out to do that. I just was trying to do me in the Broadway space where there's not a lot of me's. And so I get celebrated for just doing me. And so guess what I get to do? Do more of me.
Yes. Yes. I think that's exactly it. I mean, I also just like, I just think so often people don't recognize the fact that like there was like a cost to doing me, which meant that there were like people who like never wanted to fuck with me and still won't fuck with me, 12 nominations or not. I mean, I think there's like a reason why there are certain theaters that you'd be like, why doesn't Jeremy have a commission there? Why is it Jeremy wrote a play that has 12 nominations and like hasn't been like commissioned it for New York theater since that moment happened, right? Like, or since his play premiered off Broadway or on Broadway. And it's like, there's a reason for that. You know, I'm uncompromising and I'm always going to do what I want to do. And I also am going to like call shit out. And I think that like what's really freeing about this is that I think that writing the right thing for you at the right time can have its benefits. And one of those benefits is like not having to chase after any other affirmations anymore, you know? I don't have to chase for affirmation.
Question, you know, plays around the nation, right? Whether they be like, you know, even how Tyler Perry started, right? Doing church plays, right? And you know, you go city to city and there's theater all over the country. And when you go to black towns, black cities, you know, there's theater that definitely takes place. People are writing and telling stories. And you know, and churches, you know, even churches like religious, they love plays, right? Help me understand, if you can, just that world outside of Broadway, right? And like the off-Broadway world of, you know, the actors, the writers, the performers in general, and how we could do a better job of even platforming them. Is that a thing?
100%. I mean, I think that something that's really complicated is that there are two theatrical traditions that Black artists live within. Or I could actually say three. There are three literary traditions they live within. There is pure quote unquote literary theater, which is like a theater that sort of like privileges white spaces and white audiences, not by when Black people are a part of it, it's not necessarily by design that they're privileging those people. It's just by economics, right? Like there's a lot of money for in the nonprofit space for that type of Black work. So that's like your August Wilsons, your Susan Laurie Parks, like et cetera. Then there is like the Black theater, right? Like the Black theater that is like also a part of the literary tradition, but has decided to have that same nonprofit space for Black artists that is in the tradition that was started by the Negro Ensemble in 1969. So it's National Black Theater in Harlem, like an amazing theater. That's also got a Penumbra Theater. I can name a lot of Kenny Leon's theater in Atlanta. And so they do literary theater generally by Black writers who were most likely trained somewhere and have that same, but it's literally for Black audiences by Black creators, like, and they're not even at all interested in white folks or their money unless it's maybe from the state or the government.
Got it.
And then there is like theater that is from urban theater or theater from the Chitlin circuit, right? And that is like theater that like I grew up with. Like that's the theater of Tyler Perry and a litany of other names that like I'm gonna like butcher right now, so I'm not gonna do it. But that's like when you go see the Set It Off play at the King's Theater. You know, that's Chitlin circuit, quote unquote, theater or urban theater. And I think that the thing that's difficult is that like all of these audiences, there are artists there are Black artists working for all three of these spaces, and yet there's very little conversation about how to make these audiences the same. And like for me, I want to make those audiences the same because growing up, what I grew up listening to and watching were gospel plays, and making sense of my own.
Mama, I Want to Sing. That was the joint.
Yes. And like you know, how do you? It was funny because I had to make sense of why my mom liked that play and didn't like Hamlet.
Right.
And I think that when I started to look deeper, I realized like, oh, this actually has a lot in common with Hamlet. It's just that when Hamlet's done, they don't do it the way it was written. Like, they wrote that shit for the groundlings, right? Like those were also like, spiritual plays and plays that had like greater ideas about morality, but also had like a sense of the ribald and fart jokes and like the kind of things you see in a Tyler Perry movie where there's just like these random asides that speak to the moment. And I think that like because no one had contemporized it, I realized that like there was this like divide. And I was like, oh wait, so I could make a play that could connect to my mom and with this thing, like that's really cool. And I think that like the other thing with theater that's like made in the Black literary tradition, like that's just that there are still, I think, not all the time, and this is like something that's really complicated, but it's something that August Wilson spoke about very bluntly. It is talk at Princeton, which you can Google. Just Google like Princeton August Wilson. But there are a lot of rules around like what is a play for a Black theater audience and what isn't. And I think that there are people that like just never will align with that for certain people, and that also makes it difficult for those theaters to properly program a Susan Laurie Parks or Brandon Jacobs Jenkins or an Alicia Harris, who are just as Black as everyone else. And so I think that like the sort of the non-monolithic nature of Black audiences, and I think also the like the constant division around inside of the Black community around like what is the best way to be, makes it very difficult for all those audiences to coalesce. But I think that there are more artists that are starting to think about the connectivity between those three spaces.
Well, and I think that's what you achieved with slave play, right? Like slave play, you took, it's very intellectual, right? But it's also very in your face and easy to understand.
And funny, so and sexy.
Right, and then all those other things. And then, what I just heard you articulate, which is basically to somebody like me who's a layman, is you got some smart shit and then you got regular people shit. And how do you get smart shit and regular people shit into the same space? Because there's a lot of times that these intellectuals, they want to be all intellectual and shit. They don't want to just be regular.
Well, and the point you were making, Jeremy, about Tyler Perry, and I'm guilty of this too, because I've definitely judged Tyler Perry stuff and wasn't a big fan. He's also tapping into ideas that are complex, and if you're only looking at it to be one thing, then you may be missing that it has a lot more in common with these more highfalutin and things that are seen
smart
as
people shit,
higher culture shit. But that's not fair either. But Jeremy, real quick, off the subject, before we wrap with you, I want to get one thing off Broadway. You tweet a lot. You're a man of many opinions. We are less than 2 weeks from the election. What is most on Jeremy O. Harris's mind about the state of the world and the election and everything going on right now?
I am out here to tell people, get out, do what you can, and vote for Kanye West. I think that's the most important thing for us to be. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Yo, this almost got wrapped so fast.
I was actually, I knew you was bullshit. I wanted to see how far you was gonna go with it.
No, I mean, just like, because I just know that like someone on Twitter, because there's still like a bunch of people who like hate me so much on Twitter. They will just take that one part and be like look at Jeremy on Ebro's show. Like, what a fucking
yo, I'm sorry, Jeremy. I don't follow you on Twitter. I'm doing it right now.
You don't follow Jeremy on Twitter?
No.
The man's a Twitter machine.
I'm sorry, man.
He tweets more than you.
You're Jeremy O. Harris, right? It's just Jeremy O. Harris.
That's right.
Boom.
All right. But what is it, Jeremy, really?
I mean, I think that what's on my mind is that, like, at the end of the day, is Biden the person that, like, I necessarily, like, need in my life? No. Like, are his politics the exact politics that, like, we want? No. But I am thinking very deeply about how the next 6 months are really tenuous, right? And how I think that right now the Democrats especially need a win, because if Amy Coney Barrett gets elected, it gets put into the Supreme Court without any actual fight, that without any resistance on our side, we will see 40 years of like utter terror in our nation, whether Trump is the president or not. And I think that like what's happening when you watch the judiciary hearings is that it feels like there's like a real morale, drainage of morale on the left right now. And the kind of energy that we had during the Kavanaugh hearings is nowhere to be found. And I think that that's because everyone's actually really scared about what's going to happen on November 3rd. And everyone knows that, like, Amy is the key for him to game the system and say, fuck it. Like, this ain't no democracy anymore. This is a Trumpocracy.
Well, because
and, like,
because if she's in there and he challenges the election, if it's close, she's in, he challenges the election. That means in a very unprecedented fashion, the Supreme Court can go into states that he contests and say he won.
Yes. Not to mention that almost every state in the union is like already on his side because he named all the federal judges already, right? Like he's named like more federal judges than almost any sitting president. This is what matters. The judiciary is like literally the thing that matters. And so I want people to like not think about the fact that like, you know what, like Biden's not giving me free healthcare, so I don't fuck with him. Or Biden's not doing, I know he's not. That fucking sucks. And it's crazy. But like Angela Davis said, if we don't get this man out, many of the most progressive of us won't be able to survive or won't have the tools to organize to get the kind of like radical shifts we want in our country to happen in 4 years, 8 years, 12 years. People forget that like the radical shift between Jim Crow and like me being able to do a play on Broadway where I say whatever the fuck I want to do is like literally within our grandparents' lifetime. Like, you know, like my grandma was Jim Crow, now she's not. That's a radical shift. It might seem like something from the movies, but like the fact that I literally couldn't go to a water fountain in my hometown if a white person could drink from it, like within like 50 years of my living existence is insane. And I think that we forget that like things are hard and things can't happen just because we want them to happen quickly. It is incremental. It is like a fucked up chess game, and it's a chess game that's like where like somehow we're missing pieces and the other side has a lot. And I was talking to my boyfriend about this because he actually like he was like wanted to be a diplomat, so he has like a lot of political mojo. And he was like, it's actually much harder to be a liberal because when you're a conservative, you have nothing. You're beholden to nothing. No sense of anything except for money.
Correct.
Right. And so they can just run as fast as they want in this race. Whereas like we are beholden and slowed down by these weights of, you know, identity, of
morals,
social, like, morality.
Process. How about process? Process.
Yes.
Yeah.
Process. Yes. And like also just like the idea that like, you know, we all like everyone has a different idea about what to do with capitalism and socialism on even our side, you know, and they don't have that same complication. So we have to recognize that like the fact that we're progressive and want to change the world and move forward means we have to be comfortable with the fact that change takes time, evolution takes time. Like it wasn't just like you know, a couple monkeys saw one monkey walking upright and they were like, oh, so we should all just do that now. It was like, oh fuck, it's gonna take a couple generations for all of us here to walk upright. Like it's gonna take a couple like breedings, unless you don't believe in evolution, and then I can't help you. You might as well vote for Amy Coney Barrett. So.
All right, thank you, Jeremy. I'm glad I asked that question.
Yo, Jeremy O'Harris, 12 Tony nominations, Slave Play. You're gonna be hearing a lot about it if you haven't already. We love having you on the program. Thank you for your time. Congratulations again.
Congrats, Jeremy.
Keep
Thank
going.
you guys.
Keep
you guys
pushing.
are amazing.
And yo,
Ebro.
Yes.
I want to get, before I get off the phone with you, I need to get some workout tips on how to build my upper body strength.
Push-ups. 5 push-ups a day every day.
5 push-ups a day. That's
every
it.
day. Five.
That's easy.
Well, executed, full range of motion push-ups, slow, every day.
Slow,
like go down,
okay.
slow,
come
up, slow. Full range, all the way down, all the way up, every day. And then as it gets easier, just add one.
Boom.
Okay. I mean, because honestly, now that I have this, like, I think the next goal I have to do is just like to become like a full thought. You know, like it's like all
right, Jeremy.
I've like.
All right, it's conversation.
Now it's time for me to just
all right, man.
Like hot shot.
Yo, you're gonna be like, what's your man from J.R. Smith from the Lakers? You ain't never gonna have a shirt on. Every time
Jeremy
we
just
see
stops
Jeremy
wearing a
on
shirt.
Twitter, he ain't got no shirt on.
All right, Jeremy.
Yo, later, bro.
Later,
man.
All right, peace.
Bye.
Peace.